The invitation sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I touched it. Cream cardstock, embossed gold lettering, the kind of paper stock that whispers expensive when you pick it up. Outside, September rain hammered the windows of my rental duplex, the place I'd moved into after the divorce, the one with the leaky bathroom faucet I kept meaning to fix. I held the envelope up to the light. My sister's handwriting on the front, that perfect Catholic school cursive our mother had drilled into both of us. Miranda. My name in her hand still looked like a reproach. Inside, a full cruise itinerary. Mediterranean, 12 days, all expenses paid. Departure in 2 weeks. I worked hospice. 43 years old, recently divorced, perpetually tired in a way sleep never fixed. My days smelled like antiseptic and the particular staleness of rooms where people were busy dying. I was good at it, holding hands, explaining morphine drips to families who couldn't hear past their own panic, sitting in silence when silence was the only honest thing left. But I came home to microwaved dinners and true crime podcasts, and some nights I forgot to turn the lights on until my daughter texted asking if I was okay. The phone rang. Not my sister, her assistant. A woman named Bridget whose voice had that smooth HR quality, warm but sterile. Miranda, just confirming you received the invitation. Mallory wanted to make sure everything was clear, full package, penthouse suite, all transfers arranged. She thought you could use some time to yourself. After everything. After everything. Code 4, after our mother's funeral, after the estate got divided, after Mallory got the house, the 4-bedroom colonial where we grew up, and I got Mom's recipe box, her photo albums, and what Mallory called the emotional labor of actually sitting with her those final 6 weeks. It's generous, I said, which was true and also not the point. She really wants you to go, she said. Bridget paused, consultation with notes. She said you deserve this. Deserve. Another word that carried subtext like a suitcase full of stones. My daughter, Sophie, 16 and ferociously pragmatic, found me staring at the invitation that evening. She had her father's dark hair and my mother's way of cutting through bullshit with a single look. You're going? She said. Not a question. I don't know. Work has other nurses. Mom, when's the last time you did something just for you? I almost laughed. The last time I did something for myself, I'd filed for divorce. Sophie counted that as self-care. I counted it as triage. Aunt Mallory probably has reasons, I said carefully. Sophie rolled her eyes. Yeah. The reason is you've been a zombie since Grandma died. Go, eat fancy food, sit by a pool. I'll stay with Dad. 2 weeks later, I stood on a dock in Barcelona, rain-slicked planks gleaming under gray sky, seagulls wheeling overhead with their accusations. The ship loomed, white and impossibly, huge, like a floating hotel designed by someone who'd never experienced joy, only its expensive simulation. I held my carry-on and the embossed invitation, now creased from being folded and refolded. A porter took my bag. A woman in a crisp uniform scanned my boarding pass and smiled with perfect teeth. Ms. Garrett, welcome aboard. You've been upgraded. Penthouse suite, deck 12. Your cruise coordinator will meet you at embarkation. Upgraded? I hadn't known there was room to upgrade from what the invitation promised. Courtesy of your party, enjoy your voyage. The cabin was obscene, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a private balcony, king bed with linens that probably cost more than my monthly rent, marble bathroom, a bottle of champagne sweating in an ice bucket, a small card propped beside it. I picked up the card. My sister's handwriting again. Enjoy what you've earned. M. I read it twice, 3 times. Turned it over, nothing else. Just those 5 words that felt like they were missing punctuation. A period, a question mark, maybe an ellipsis, trailing off into everything we hadn't said to each other in 18 months. I set the card down, opened the balcony door. Sea air rushed in, salt and diesel and something that smelled like distance. Below, the dock crawled with passengers dragging luggage, waving at people on shore, taking selfies with the ship's name behind them. I thought about calling Sophie. Didn't. Thought about texting Mallory. Definitely didn't. Instead, I unpacked. Hung my 3 dresses in a closet large enough to contain my entire wardrobe twice over. Put my toiletries in the bathroom, where they looked absurd. Drugstore moisturizer next to designer hand soap. My frayed toothbrush in a holder that might have been actual crystal. That first night, dinner was formal. I'd packed one nice dress, black, the kind that worked for funerals and apparently cruise dining rooms. A crew member escorted me to the captain's table, another upgrade I hadn't asked for. 6 place settings, 5 already occupied. Miranda Garrett, the maitre d' announced, like I was someone. The woman across from me smiled, mid-50s, elegant in that way money enables, hair silver and deliberate. Captain's table, you must be special. Or someone thinks I am, I said, sitting. Around the table, 2 other women, both solo travelers, both my age or close to it. One couple, newly retired, matching nautical sweaters. The silver-haired woman introduced herself as Elena. "Is this your first cruise?" Elena asked. "First luxury cruise," I said. "First time someone else paid for it." Elena's smile shifted. Something knowing entered it. "Gift?" "From my sister. Reconciliation gesture." I reached for my water glass. "We haven't spoken much since our mother died." "Ah." Elena nodded. "My children bought me this. All 3 chipped in. Very generous. Told me I needed to process my grief." She said the last part like she was quoting a therapist. "My husband died 8 months ago." One of the other solo women, Carol, name tag clipped to her cardigan, leaned in. "My brother sent me. Said I needed a break after my divorce. Very thoughtful." She didn't sound like she meant it. The third woman, younger, maybe late 30s, cleared her throat. "My ex-husband's family. They felt bad about—" She stopped. Started again. "They paid for the whole thing. Said I deserved something beautiful." We all sat there, 5 strangers around a table set with more silverware than necessary, and the air tasted like revelation. Elena raised her wine glass. "To generous relatives who know what we need." We drank. The wine was excellent. It didn't help. After dinner, I walked the deck alone. The ship had left port during our meal. Barcelona was aglow on the horizon, fading. Other passengers laughed in clusters, took photos, hung over railings pointing at nothing. I found a quiet spot near the stern, watched our wake churn white against dark water. My cabin felt too large when I returned. The champagne still sat in its bucket, ice melted to water. I opened it anyway, poured a glass, sat on the balcony in the dark. The card was still on the table. "Enjoy what you've earned." I thought about what I'd earned. 18 months of silence, a mother's final weeks mostly alone, a house that went to someone else, and now this. A floating palace, a penthouse suite, champagne I didn't ask for. I went inside, powered up my laptop, found the ship's guest services page, typed Legacy Cruise Experience into the search bar because I'd seen it on a brochure in the cabin, tucked into the welcome folder. The page loaded. Soft focus photos of middle-aged people looking pensively at oceans. Text in that soothing serif font, "Cruise lines love the Legacy Cruise Experience. When family wants to give you the space to reflect, process, and renew, our specialized programming offers solo travelers the opportunity to navigate life transitions in luxury and comfort. Gifted passages welcome." I read it again. Then again. "When family wants to give you space." I closed the laptop, drank the champagne, all of it, stood on the balcony watching moonlight fracture on water, and thought about the word space, how it could mean room to breathe or the distance between planets, cold and absolute. Sure, what could go wrong? Morning arrived with aggressive sunshine and a headache I'd earned. I stood on the balcony in yesterday's clothes, watching the coast of Spain materialize. Jagged cliffs, white buildings stacked like a child's blocks, impossible blue sky. Other passengers were already up, claiming deck chairs, jogging circuits in matching athletic gear. I showered, changed, avoided the mirror's assessment, went looking for coffee. The breakfast buffet was a stadium of excess. Omelet stations, fresh squeezed juice, pastries arranged like art installations. I took black coffee and toast, found a table by the window. Elena appeared 10 minutes later with a plate of fruit and a knowing smile. "Sleep well?" "Define well." She sat without asking. I didn't mind. I looked it up too. Last night, the Legacy Cruise thing. And it's very politely worded, isn't it? Elena speared a strawberry. All that language about transitions and reflection. Sounds nicer than "we need you out of the way for a while." I sipped my coffee. It was excellent. Everything here was excellent. Your kids told you that's what this was? My daughter did. She was honest, said they needed time to go through the house without me. Elena made air quotes. Hovering. Her word. Apparently watching them sort your dead husband's belongings is hovering. Is it? Probably. Elena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. But I didn't know I'd need an engraved invitation to grieve in my own home. We sat quiet for a moment. Outside the window, the sea was ridiculous. Turquoise, crystalline, the kind of color that looks fake in photographs. My sister didn't tell me, I said finally. She just sent the invitation. Well, her assistant sent it. Your sister has an assistant? My sister has a lot of things. I picked at my toast. Including our mother's house. Elena nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. The ship docked at a Greek island by mid-morning. Whitewashed buildings cascading down hillsides, narrow streets designed for donkeys, not tour buses. There were organized excursions, historical walking tours, wine tastings, cooking classes. I signed up for none of them. Instead, I walked, just walked. Found myself in a neighborhood away from the tourist clusters, where laundry hung between buildings and old men played cards at outdoor tables. A woman swept her doorstep, paused to watch me pass. I smiled. She didn't smile back, but she nodded. It felt like more honesty than I'd gotten in months. I found a small shop selling phone cards, bought one with hand gestures and American dollars, found a quiet bench overlooking the harbor and called my sister. Voicemail. Again. I didn't leave a message this time, just sat there holding the phone, watching fishing boats bob in the water. Thought about all the messages I'd left over the past year. Hey, just checking in. Hey, wanted to talk about mom's things. Hey, are we okay? All answered with texts, brief ones. Swamped with work. Can we talk later? Later never came. I walked back to the ship. The gangway was crowded with returning passengers, sunburned and carrying shopping bags, comparing purchases. I felt suddenly desperately tired. Dinner that night, the captain's table had shrunk. Just us, the 4 solo women from the first night. Carol was already seated when I arrived, and Elena came in behind me. The younger woman, I'd learned her name was Jen, was last. Where are the couple? I asked. Different seating, Elena said. Requested the honeymoon section. Apparently we were bringing down the mood. Jen laughed. It sounded sharp. Can't imagine why. We ordered. The waiter recommended dishes with the kind of enthusiasm that comes from being paid to care. We ordered what sounded good and didn't matter. So, Carol said, cutting into sea bass, my brother called today, asked how I was enjoying my me time. More air quotes. Our table was becoming a forest of them. Wanted to know if I was finding myself. Did you tell him where to find you? Jen asked. On a boat he paid for, so he didn't have to deal with my post-divorce crisis at Thanksgiving. Carol took a bite, chewed. The fish is good. Elena turned to Jen. You're quiet tonight. Jen set down her fork. Got an email from my former mother-in-law. She's the one who paid for this. Wanted to make sure I was taking advantage of all the amenities. Specifically mentioned the spa and therapy services. The ship has therapy services? I asked. Apparently. For people navigating life transitions. Jen's voice was flat. She signed me up for a session, tomorrow. Already paid for it. We sat with that for a moment. Around us, other diners chatted and laughed. Silverware clinked against porcelain. Somewhere, a string quartet was murdering Vivaldi. My sister's timing, I said slowly, means this cruise overlaps with what would have been our mother's 70th birthday. Elena looked up. When? 3 days ago? While I was in Barcelona, boarding. I pushed food around my plate. My sister's hosting a memorial gathering. This weekend I wasn't invited. Carol set down her wine glass carefully. You're sure? Saw it on Facebook. I hadn't meant to look. Had looked anyway, during a moment of weakness and decent Wi-Fi. Family and close friends. Intimate celebration. Her words. Jen leaned back in her chair. Jesus. No, I said, and just Mallory. Elena touched my hand briefly. Her fingers were warm. I'm sorry. I shrugged. What else was there to do? She sent me here instead. Made sure I had the penthouse suite. Champagne, space to reflect. I heard myself say it, space, and tasted metal. My son, Carol said suddenly, is getting married in April. Destination wedding, Costa Rica? He sent me here in September because she stopped, started again, because planning is stressful and he didn't want me adding opinions. Did he uninvite you to the wedding? Jen asked. No, just to the planning and the engagement party and the dress shopping with his fiancée. Carol's smile was terrible. But I'm definitely invited to the wedding. He was very clear about that. We finished dinner mostly in silence. When the waiter offered dessert, we all declined. The string quartet had moved on to Pachelbel. No one was listening. The next morning, Elena convinced me to join her for the ship's wellness package. Might as well, she said. We're here, we're paid for. And honestly, I could use a massage that doesn't come with family commentary. The spa was on deck 9, all white surfaces and piped-in ocean sounds, the kind of place designed to feel like serenity, but mostly felt like expensive silence. My massage therapist was named Svetlana. She had strong hands and asked questions while kneading tension from my shoulders. You're traveling alone? Yes. Work trip? Vacation? Gift from my sister. Ah, nice sister. I didn't answer. Svetlana worked on a knot in my shoulder blade that felt like it had been there since birth. You have family? She asked. Children? A daughter, 16. She's home with her father. And your work? What do you do? Hospice nurse. Svetlana's hands paused just for a second. Hard work. Someone has to do it. Yes. But does it have to be you? I opened my eyes, stared at the ceiling. I'm good at it. Many people are good at things that hurt them. Svetlana resumed the massage. Does your daughter know you are good at sad things? I thought about Sophie, how she'd looked at me before I left, that mix of concern and relief, glad I was going, worried about who'd come back. I think so. And does she know you are good at happy things too? I didn't answer. Didn't have one. After the massage, I met Elena in the relaxation lounge. We sat in white robes, drinking cucumber water, not relaxing. Feel better? Elena asked. Feel like I paid someone to point out my life choices. She laughed. Isn't that what therapy is? Therapy usually includes solutions. Does it? Elena sipped her water. My therapist, after James died, she kept asking what I wanted. Like that was a reasonable question. Like I was supposed to know. What did you tell her? That I wanted my husband back. And when that wasn't available, I wanted my children to need me the way they did when they were small. Elena set down her glass. She said that was grief talking. I said grief was the only honest voice I had left. I turned to look at her. Did that help? No, but it was true. Elena pulled her robe tighter. The thing is, they don't need me. Not really. They're adults. They have lives, marriages, careers, children of their own, and She paused. I'm the woman in the house full of a dead man's belongings, and they need to sort through it, and I'm in the way. Are you? Probably, but it's still my house, was still my marriage, is still my grief. She looked at me. Your sister got the house. The house, the good china, Mom's jewelry, everything with resale value. What did you get? Recipe box, photo albums, her collection of ceramic angels. I smiled without meaning it. All the things that only matter to me. And a cruise. And a cruise. Elena was quiet for a moment. You know what's funny? Not funny, but... She stopped, reconsidered. My kids think they're being kind, giving me space, time to process. And maybe they are, but it still feels like being erased. Like they're deciding what I need better than I can. At least they told you, I said. At least your sister spent money. We looked at each other and started laughing. It wasn't happy laughter, but it was real. I returned to my cabin that evening. The bed had been made, fresh towels in the bathroom, chocolates on the pillow, and an envelope slipped under the door. I picked it up. Same cream cardstock as the original invitation. Opened it. Hope you're relaxing. We're managing everything here. M. The word managing was underlined. Twice. I stood there holding the card, watching light from the setting sun turn the cabin golden. Thought about what was being managed. Mother's memorial, the house, the family narrative, me. I set the card on the desk next to the first one. Enjoy what you've earned. We're managing everything. 2 sentences, a whole relationship. I opened my laptop, clicked through to my sister's Facebook page. New photos, the memorial gathering. I recognized cousins, family, friends, people from our mother's church, everyone holding wine glasses standing in our mother's living room, Mallory's living room now, smiling in that somber way people do at celebrations of life. One photo showed the mantle, Mom's ceramic angels arranged there, the ones I was supposed to have. I closed the laptop, sat on the balcony, watched the sun finish drowning itself in the Mediterranean. Around 3 a.m, I was still awake. The balcony had become my confessional. I sat wrapped in the complimentary robe, watching moonlight turn the water to hammered silver, and thought about my mother's last weeks. Mallory visited once, brought flowers, stayed 30 minutes, called it self-care boundaries, said she couldn't handle watching Mom deteriorate, said I was stronger, better equipped, a nurse after all. I'd sat with Mom through the morphine dreams, the labored breathing, the long silences punctuated by panic, held her hand, wet her lips with those foam swabs, told her it was okay to let go, even though nothing about it felt okay. After, Mallory handled the funeral arrangements, efficient, professional, picked the casket, the flowers, the readings, asked for my input on nothing, said she didn't want to burden me, said I'd done enough. Then came the estate, the lawyer's office, the will that split things evenly technically, but not really, the house to Mallory because she had children, stability, a husband who worked in finance, the personal items to me because I valued sentimental things. I hadn't argued. What was the point? You can't explain to someone why memory matters more than market value. Can't make them understand that recipes in your mother's handwriting are worth more than the KitchenAid mixer, even if the mixer's worth more on Facebook Marketplace. So I took my boxes, said thank you, drove home to my rental duplex and stacked them in the closet. Hadn't opened them, hadn't been able to. And now I was here, on a boat, in a penthouse suite, drinking champagne I didn't want while my sister hosted a memorial I wasn't invited to, standing in a house I grew up in, surrounded by family who probably didn't notice I was missing. Space to reflect. I reflected. It didn't help. Morning came with aggressive politeness. A knock on the door, room service I hadn't ordered. Compliments of your party, Ms. Garrett. The attendant wheeled in a cart. Coffee, pastries, fresh fruit arranged like a still life. I tipped him and closed the door. Sat on the balcony eating croissants that tasted like butter and money. The ship was docked at another island. I couldn't remember which one. They were starting to blur, white buildings, blue water, overpriced jewelry stores in every port. My phone buzzed. Sophie. How's the trip? You doing okay? I typed back. It's beautiful. How are you? Good. Staying at Aunt Mallory's this weekend. She said to give you space. Said you needed it. I stared at the message, read it 3 times. You're at Mallory's? Yeah. She said it'd be easier than Dad's place. More room. Is that okay? I wanted to throw the phone into the sea. Instead, of course. Have fun. Love you, Mom. Love you too. I set the phone down, drank coffee that had gone lukewarm, thought about my daughter in my mother's house, Mallory's house, playing happy family while I floated somewhere off the coast of wherever. Elena found me at breakfast. I was pushing eggs around a plate, not eating them. You look terrible, she said, sitting. Thank you. I mean it kindly. What happened? I told her. About Sophie, about Mallory's invitation, about being managed. Elena didn't speak for a long moment. Then, when James died, my daughter Jessica took charge, organized everything, the funeral, the estate, all of it. Very efficient, very kind. She cut into her omelet. Afterwards, she told me she'd been protecting me, said I wasn't in a state to make decisions, and she was right, I wasn't, but, I prompted, but there's a difference between being protected and being erased. Elena met my eyes, and I didn't know which one was happening until I was on this boat, and they were in my house, sorting through 40 years of my life, deciding what mattered. Did you try to stop them? No. I knew before I boarded. Jessica was honest, said they needed to do it without me. Elena smiled that terrible smile again. She said I could keep anything I wanted. Just had to tell them what. What did you choose? Haven't decided yet. That's why I came. To figure out what actually matters. She sipped her coffee. What about you? What did you choose? I didn't get to choose. Mallory made a list. I got what was on it. And what was on it? Things that only mean something to me. The words came out harder than I intended. Recipe box, photo albums, letters, ceramic angels Mom collected, all the things you can't sell on eBay. So you got the memories. I got the work of remembering while everyone else redecorates? Elena was quiet. Around us, other passengers ate and laughed and planned their excursions. Life was happening. We were sitting at the edge of it. Want to skip the organized tour? Elena asked finally. And do what? Something real. We walked. Not in the tourist areas. Those were packed with cruise passengers in matching visors, following guides with flags. We found streets where locals actually lived. Laundry lines. Scooters parked on sidewalks. A small market where an old woman sold tomatoes and herbs from wooden crates. Elena bought basil. I wasn't sure why. She handed me a sprig. Smell it. I did. It smelled like summer, like the garden my mother used to keep before her arthritis got bad. James grew basil, Elena said, on our kitchen windowsill, even in winter. I haven't bought fresh basil since he died. Couldn't. She stopped. Started again. Couldn't smell it without remembering. And now? Now I'm going to remember anyway. Might as well have basil. She tucked it into her bag. Come on. We found a small cafe, sat outside under a trellis heavy with grapevines. Ordered coffee in broken English and gestures. The owner, an older man with sun-weathered skin, brought us thick cups and a plate of cookies he clearly baked that morning. Tourist boat? He asked, gesturing toward the harbor. Yes, Elena said, too many boats, too many people. He shrugged. But you tip good, so? A bigger shrug, philosophy in motion. I sipped the coffee. It was strong and bitter and perfect. My daughter thinks I'm processing, Elena said after the owner left. That's the word she used. Processing grief, like it's data, like I can run it through some program and get a result. What would the result be? Moving on. That's what they want. For me to move on. Sell the house. Move somewhere smaller. Join a book club. Date again, maybe. Elena laughed sharp. Jessica actually said that. Mom, you're only 58. You could meet someone. Could you? Probably, but I don't want to meet someone. I want... She stopped, set down her cup. I want people to stop telling me what I should want. I understood that. God, I understood that. We sat for a long time. Finished our coffee, ordered more. Watched people walk past, locals, not tourists. A woman with a small dog, a teenager on a bicycle, an old couple holding hands, walking so slowly they barely seemed to move. I need to tell you something, Elena said finally. I knew, before I boarded. I knew this was a removal cruise. I looked at her. Jessica told me, straight up. Said they needed to go through the house and it would be easier if I wasn't there. Asked if I wanted to stay with my sister instead. I said no. Said I'd rather take the cruise. She met my eyes. Because at least here I chose to be gone. Did you choose? More than you did. She said it gently. Your sister didn't give you the option. She just managed it. Yeah. We walked back slowly. The ship loomed in the harbor, white and improbable. Other passengers were returning, laden with shopping bags and sunburns. We joined the stream, heading up the gangway. That evening, I skipped dinner. Couldn't face the captain's table, couldn't face the questions. Instead, I found the ship's library, tucked away on deck 5, nearly empty. Leather chairs, actual books, a window overlooking the sea. There was a computer terminal in the corner. I logged in, pulled up my sister's Facebook page again. More photos from the memorial. People holding plates of food. Mallory standing by the mantel, gesturing. Our cousin posted a comment. Beautiful tribute. Your mom would have loved this. I scrolled down. Found a photo I'd missed before. The dining room table, set with our mother's good china, the china Mallory got. And in the center, a photo of Mom. The one from her birthday 2 years before she died. She was laughing. I'd taken that photo. I stared at it for a long time. Then clicked to Mallory's profile. About section. Employer listed as MGC Consulting. Her business. The one she'd started 5 years ago with Mom's investment. The one that was doing well enough to afford assistance in penthouse cruise suites. I opened a new tab. Searched for the ship's phone service. Found you could make calls from the library for a fee. Used my credit card. Dialed my sister's number. She answered. Finally. Her voice sounded distant, distracted. Miranda? Is everything okay? Is Sophie there? Yes. Why? Did something happen? No, I stopped. Started again. I saw the memorial photos. Silence on the other end. Then, I can explain. Can you? It was last minute. Very small. I didn't think. She paused. You were already gone. And I thought you'd be upset. After everything. I thought it would be easier. For who? For you. For everyone. Miranda, you've been so fragile since Mom died. I sat with her, every day. For 6 weeks. Where were you? I had work. The business. Kids. I came when I could. Once. You came once. Another silence. I could hear voices in the background. Laughter. My daughter's voice saying something I couldn't make out. I'm doing my best, Mallory said finally. Her voice had shifted, harder now. I've tried to include you, to help. This cruise, it cost a fortune. I thought you'd be grateful. Grateful? Yes. Most people would be. Most people would say thank you and enjoy themselves instead of... She stopped. Instead of what? Instead of making everything about your feelings, your grief, your loss. Mom was my mother too, Miranda. But I can't fall apart. Someone has to keep things together. Someone has to manage. I hung up. Sat there in the empty library, phone still in my hand, listening to my pulse hammer in my ears. A moment later, my phone buzzed. Mallory calling back. I let it ring, then a text. That was unfair. I'm trying to be there for you. I put the phone face down on the desk. The library was quiet. Someone had left a book on the chair next to me, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I picked it up, flipped it open randomly. Found a passage, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. I closed the book, stood, walked back to my cabin. The sun was setting. The water had turned that particular shade of gold-orange that doesn't look real. I stood on the balcony, watching light die, and thought about the last time I'd seen my mother alive. She'd been mostly unconscious. Morphine keeping her comfortable, breathing labored. But she'd opened her eyes, looked at me, squeezed my hand. It's okay, I told her. You can rest now. She'd smiled, just a little. Then closed her eyes. Gone an hour later. Mallory had arrived 30 minutes after, asked if Mom had said anything. I'd said no. The truth was nothing needed saying. We'd already said it all, in 6 weeks of presence. But Mallory wanted last words. A meaningful final moment, something to frame and hang on the wall. I didn't tell her about the hand squeeze, about the smile, about the weight of being truly seen by someone you love before they disappear. I kept that, because it was mine, because I'd earned it, because I was there. Now I stood on a balcony in the middle of the Mediterranean, in a suite my sister paid for, drinking champagne I didn't ask for, and I realized something. I'd been carrying everyone else's memories while they redecorated the rooms. Mallory got the house. I got the ghosts. And she'd sent me away so she could finish erasing them. I went inside, pulled out my laptop, opened a new message to my sister, then closed it, started again, then closed it again. Thought about Elena, about her daughter's honesty, about knowing you're being removed and choosing to go anyway. Thought about the difference between being protected and being erased, about the difference between a gift and a dismissal. I opened the message one more time. Typed, I saw the memorial, saw Sophie's there, saw you managing everything. I understand now what this cruise was, what it's always been. You didn't give me space to reflect. You gave me distance so I wouldn't interfere. And I let you. I smiled and said thank you and got on the boat. But I'm done smiling. Done saying thank you for being erased. This isn't reconciliation, it's removal. And you know it. I reread it. Changed nothing. Didn't send it yet. Instead, I stood on the balcony as the last light bled from the sky, watched stars emerge, thought about my mother's recipe box, still boxed in my closet at home, about all those handwritten cards. Instructions for creating, not just remembering. Sweet, sour, bitter. Her caponata recipe. She'd underlined it. Balance matters. Too much of anything ruins the whole thing. I'd been eating bitter for 18 months, calling it loyalty. I went back inside, read my message to Mallory again. This time I pressed send, didn't wait for a response. Closed the laptop, went back to the balcony. The sea was dark now, infinite. The ship moved through it like a lit house in the middle of nowhere, carrying hundreds of people to places they'd forget in a month. I was one of them. Floating, managed, removed, but somewhere under all that, still breathing, still here. I woke before sunrise, not from nightmares or anxiety, just awake. The cabin was dark except for the emergency exit light above the door, casting everything in dim green. I lay there listening to the ship's engine hum, that low vibration you stop noticing after a few days, but never really goes away. My phone sat on the nightstand. 3 missed messages from Mallory. I didn't read them. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Instead, I showered, put on clothes, stood on the balcony watching the horizon turn from black to gray to that pale blue that comes before real morning. The air smelled like salt and distance and something else. Possibility, maybe, or just the absence of weight. Elena found me at breakfast. She had 2 coffees, handed me one without asking. "You sent it," she said. Not a question. "How'd you know?" "You look different, lighter." She sat across from me. Did she respond? 3 times. Haven't read them. Elena nodded, sipped her coffee. Good. We sat in comfortable silence. Around us, the breakfast crowd thinned. Passengers heading to shore excursions, organized tours, scheduled activities. The cruise director's voice crackled over the PA system, cheerful and relentless. "Don't forget to sign up for tonight's gala dinner and tomorrow's cooking demonstration." "There's a cooking class," Elena said. "In port today, Sicilian cuisine, small group, local instructor. Want to go?" "I thought you were doing the historical tour." "I was. Then I decided I didn't care about history." She smiled. "I care about food." The port town was smaller than the others. Narrow streets, weathered buildings the color of honey and rust, laundry strung between balconies like prayer flags. Our cooking class was in someone's home, or what used to be someone's home. Now it was a kitchen with a long wooden table, mismatched chairs, copper pots hanging from hooks. The instructor was maybe 70, compact and efficient, with hands that moved like she'd been chopping vegetables since birth. She introduced herself as Francesca, then immediately switched to Italian, assuming we'd keep up or figure it out. We were making caponata. Eggplant, tomatoes, olives, capers. "Sweet and sour together," Francesca explained in fragmented English. "Life in a bowl. You understand? Sweet, sour, bitter. All together. Too much sweet, you lie to yourself. Too much bitter, you punish everyone." She demonstrated knife work, quick, precise cuts, no wasted motion. "Eggplant, you salt first. Draw out the bitter, then you cook, understand?" We nodded. Started cutting. Elena worked next to me, dicing tomatoes. "Too much bitter, you punish everyone," she repeated quietly. "That's been me for 8 months. "That's been me for 18, I said. Francesca moved around the table, correcting our technique, tasting things, adding ingredients with the confidence of someone who'd made this dish 10,000 times. She paused at my cutting board. "You are angry with the eggplant?" she asked. I looked down. I'd been cutting too hard, pieces uneven, some crushed. "Sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be present." She covered my hand with hers, guided the knife. "Feel the vegetable? It tells you how to cut it." "You listen, yes?" I nodded. "Good. Now again. Slower. Angry cooking makes angry food." I started over. This time I paid attention. The resistance of the eggplant under the knife, the sound of the blade on the cutting board, the way each slice fell away clean. We cooked for 2 hours. Francesca narrated in her broken English, mixing instruction with philosophy. "Marriage is like caponata. You think it is one thing, but it is many things. Each ingredient keeps its own taste, but together. Something new. You understand? I'm divorced, I said. Ah, then you understand better than most. She tasted the sauce we were making, added more vinegar. Divorce is taking apart the caponata. Each ingredient goes back in its own bowl. Still good ingredients, but not the same dish anymore. Elena laughed. That's the best description of divorce I've ever heard. When we finished, Francesca served the caponata with bread she'd baked that morning. We sat at the long table, 4 students, 1 instructor, and ate in the kind of silence that comes from being too hungry to talk and too satisfied to rush. You know what I love about cooking? Elena said eventually. You can mess up, add too much salt, burn the onions, whatever, and you can fix it. Or start over, or just eat it anyway and learn something. You can't fix everything, I said. No, but you can usually fix the food. We walked back to the ship slowly. The afternoon had turned hot, that Mediterranean heat that makes everything shimmer. Street cats drowsed in shadows. An old man sold bottles of water from a cooler, and we bought 2, drank them standing in the shade of a church. I think I'm going to sell the house, Elena said suddenly. I looked at her. Not because the kids want me to, not because it's too big or too full of memories. She finished her water. Because I want to. Because I'm tired of living in a museum of my old life. Because James would have told me to move on, and he would have been right. She crushed the plastic bottle. And because if I'm going to remember him, I'd rather do it on purpose than by accident every time I walk past his office. When did you decide this? Just now, cutting eggplant, listening to Francesca. Elena smiled. Or maybe I decided on this boat, in pieces, and just realized it now. Back on the ship, a message waited at guest services. Physical message, envelope with my name handwritten on the front. I opened it in the elevator. Mom, Aunt Mallory showed me your text. I don't understand what's happening, but it sounds bad. Can we talk? I'm worried. Love, Sophie. The elevator doors opened on deck 12. I stood there holding the note until the doors closed again, until someone pressed the call button from another floor and the elevator moved on without me. I found a quiet corner, called my daughter. She answered on the second ring. Mom? Hi, sweetheart. What's going on? Aunt Mallory's upset. She said you accused her of something. I didn't accuse. I stated facts. What facts? Sophie's voice carried that edge kids get when they're caught between adults who used to agree on things. I looked out the window. We were leaving port, the town shrinking behind us. I told her I know what this cruise was, why she sent me. Because she wanted you to have a break. Because she wanted me out of the way. Silence. Then, Mom, that's not fair. Isn't it? Sophie, there was a memorial for Grandma. While I was here, Mallory hosted it. Did you know? Another pause. She said it was small. Immediate family. I'm immediate family. She said you'd be upset, that you were still processing. I'm not processing. I processed while sitting with your grandmother for 6 weeks. I processed while watching her die. I processed while your aunt came to one visit and sent flowers twice and called it self-care. I heard my voice rising, pulled it back. I'm not processing anymore. I'm just absent. That's different. Sophie was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. She said you needed space. She needed space. From me. From having to include me. From having to acknowledge that I was there when it mattered and she wasn't. The words came out harder than I meant them. Sophie, I'm not angry you're there. I'm angry I wasn't invited to be. I didn't know. I know you didn't. I softened. Baby, this isn't about you. It's about... I stopped. Started again. It's about me finally saying what's true, even if it's uncomfortable. Are you coming home early? No, I'm staying. But not because your aunt sent me here, because I'm choosing to. After we hung up, I sat in that quiet corner for a long time, watched the sea turn dark as evening came, thought about Elena's words, choosing to go anyway. That night, our table at dinner was quiet. Carol had left the cruise early. Family emergency, someone said, though we all suspected it was the kind of emergency where you just can't stand being removed anymore. Jen was there, and Elena and me. 3 instead of 4. My ex-mother-in-law called, Jen said, cutting into her fish. The therapist session I missed? She rescheduled it, without asking. Are you going? Elena asked. No. I told her I'd found better therapy. Jen smiled. Cooking eggplant with 2 women I met on a boat. Cheaper, too. We laughed. The wine helped. I heard from my kids today, Elena said. They've sorted through most of the house. Want to know what furniture I want to keep. What did you tell them? I asked. That I'm keeping the kitchen table, the one James built, and my grandmother's quilt. And that's it. The rest they can sell, donate, whatever. She sipped her wine. Jessica asked if I was sure. I said I'd never been more sure of anything. How'd she take it? Honestly? Relieved? I think she was expecting me to want everything, to make it difficult. Elena set down her glass. But holding on to everything means holding on to who I was. And I don't want to be that person anymore, the one who needs permission to change. After dinner, I went back to my cabin. The sunset was doing that thing where it looks too saturated to be real, all orange and pink and gold. I stood on the balcony with my laptop and opened Mallory's messages. First one. Miranda, I don't appreciate the accusation. I've tried nothing but help. Second. You're being unreasonable. This cruise cost me a fortune and you're acting like I've wronged you somehow. Third. Fine. If you want to be angry, be angry. But don't drag Sophie into this. She doesn't understand and I won't have you poisoning her against me. I read them twice. Then started typing. Mallory. I'm not dragging Sophie into anything. I'm being honest with her, which is something you stopped doing with me about 18 months ago. This cruise wasn't help. It was removal. You wanted me gone during Mom's memorial. You wanted me out of the way. And instead of saying that, instead of having the difficult conversation, you wrapped it in luxury and called it generosity. I don't want your money back. I don't want an apology. I just want you to stop pretending this was about me when it was always about you, about making your life easier, about not having to see the person who was there when you weren't. I was there. Every day, every hard moment. And you got to skip all of it, keep your boundaries, maintain your self-care, and then inherit the house and host the memorial and play the grieving daughter for everyone who doesn't know the difference. I do know the difference, and I'm done pretending I don't. I read it 3 times, changed nothing, sent it. Closed the laptop, stood on the balcony watching darkness eat the last of the light. My phone buzzed. Not Mallory. Sophie. I love you, Mom. Whatever's happening with Aunt Mallory, I love you. And I'm sorry if I made you feel like I picked her. I didn't know. I typed back, I know, baby. I love you too. More than anything. The ship moved through black water. Behind us, a wake glowed phosphorescent, temporary, dissolving into darkness. Ahead, nothing but more sea. More distance, more time. I thought about Francesca's caponata. Sweet, sour, bitter. Balance. Too much of anything ruins the whole thing. I'd been eating bitter, calling it loyalty. Been swallowing hurt, calling it family. Been accepting distance, calling it space. I was done calling things what they weren't. The last port was Amalfi. Cliffs dropping into sea, pastel buildings stacked like a child's optimistic tower, lemon trees everywhere. The organized excursions offered, scenic drives, historical tours, limoncello tastings. I signed up for none of them. Instead, I walked the market. Vendors sold everything. Ceramics, linens, produce so fresh it still had morning. Dew. I stopped at a stall with pottery, simple designs, earth-toned glazes, nothing fancy. An older woman sat behind the table reading a newspaper. I picked up a small bowl. It fit in my palm, perfectly weighted. The inside was glazed deep blue, the outside a warm terracotta. How much? I asked. She named a price in euros. I paid. She wrapped it carefully in newspaper, then brown paper, then placed it in a small bag with handles. For cooking? She asked. For me, I said. Just for me. She smiled like she understood. I carried the bowl through the market, past the lemon vendors and the scarf sellers and the tourists taking photos. Found a cafe overlooking the water, ordered an espresso, sat there holding the wrapped bowl and watching boats move across the bay. My phone buzzed. Mallory finally calling instead of texting. I let it ring. Then again. Then a third time. I answered. Miranda. Her voice was tight. We need to talk. Okay? Not okay. This isn't. You can't just. She stopped. Started again. You've made this very difficult. Made what difficult? Everything. The memorial, Sophie staying here, our family. You're being... Another pause. You're being selfish. I sipped my espresso. It was perfect. Am I? Yes, you are. I tried to do something nice, and you've turned it into... Mallory, what was Mom's favorite meal? Silence. The one she requested all the time. What was it? I don't... Why does that matter? Caponata, Sicilian eggplant. She made it every Sunday in summer, remember? She'd spend all afternoon in the kitchen singing along to the radio, and the whole house smelled like tomatoes and vinegar. Miranda. Her recipe's in the box, the one I got. Her handwriting, instructions for making it. She underlined a note at the bottom. Balance matters. Too much of anything ruins the whole thing. Mallory was quiet. I've been eating bitter for 18 months, I said. Calling it family. Calling it loyalty. Swallowing every dismissal and distance and managed removal because I thought that's what you do. You take what you're given and say thank you and pretend it's enough. I don't know what you want from me. I don't want anything from you. That's the point. I set down my cup. I wanted honesty, inclusion, acknowledgement that I was there when it mattered. But you couldn't give me that. So you gave me a cruise instead. A penthouse suite. Champagne I didn't ask for. And I'm supposed to be grateful. You should be. She caught herself. Most people would be. Then maybe I'm not most people. Maybe I'm the person who sat with our mother for 6 weeks while you sent flowers. Maybe I'm the person who held her hand when she died, while you arrived 30 minutes later asking if she said anything meaningful. Maybe... I stopped, breathed. Maybe I'm the person who finally realized that being there isn't enough if everyone else gets to decide what that means. Silence stretched between us. I could hear traffic in the womb, background on her end. Voices. She was outside somewhere having this conversation where people could hear. I'm not apologizing, she said finally. I didn't ask you to. Then what do you want? Nothing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I don't want your apology. Don't want the house. Don't want to fight over furniture or blame you for not being there. I just want you to stop pretending you did me a favor when you did yourself one. I hung up, set the phone face down on the table, sat there shaking slightly, adrenaline making my hands unstable. The waiter came by, asked if I wanted anything else. I ordered another espresso, didn't need it. Drank it anyway. When I got back to the ship, Elena was on deck with Jen. They were leaning against the railing, watching the port disappear. Last stop, Elena said when she saw me. Tomorrow we're back in Barcelona. Then what? Jen asked. Then real life. Elena smiled. For better or worse? Did you decide about the house? I asked. Called Jessica this morning. Told her to put it on the market. Elena looked out at the water. She asked where I was going to live. I said I didn't know yet. Maybe I'd travel for a while. Figure things out. What did she say? That I was being impulsive. That grief was making me reckless. Elena laughed. I told her grief was making me honest. There's a difference. That night was the gala dinner. Everyone dressed up. Suits, evening gowns, more jewelry than strictly necessary. Our table was nearly full again. Elena, Jen, me, and 2 new solo travelers who just boarded, older women on a sister trip. The new women asked questions. How was the cruise? Best excursions? Any recommendations? We answered carefully, gave them the highlights. Avoided mentioning the legacy cruise experience brochure, the space to reflect, the gentle removal. Let them have their sister trip without our context. After dinner, I walked the deck alone. The ship was moving fast now, cutting through black water toward our final destination. Other passengers filled the bars, the casino, the theater where some comedian was performing. I found a quiet spot at the stern, far from the crowds. Stood there watching our wake glow and fade, temporary light disappearing into permanent dark. My phone buzzed. Sophie. Aunt Mallory told me you're upset with her. She's crying. Mom, what happened? I looked at the message for a long time, then typed, I told her the truth. Sometimes truth hurts, but silence hurts more, just slower. I love you. See you tomorrow. Sophie replied immediately. I love you too. Can't wait to see you. I put the phone away, pulled out the wrapped bowl from my bag. Unwrapped it carefully, folded the paper, and put it back in the bag. Held the bowl in both hands. It was just a bowl. Clay shaped and fired and glazed. No particular skill to it. No real beauty. Just honest pottery made by someone's hands. I thought about what I'd put in it. Eventually, soup maybe. Salad. Fruit. Something I made for myself. By myself. Or maybe I'd keep it empty. A reminder that not everything needs to be filled. The next morning, disembarkation was chaos. Luggage in hallways, announcements over speakers, families trying to corral children and carry-ons. I packed slowly, left the champagne, left the chocolates on the pillow, took only what I'd brought, plus the bowl wrapped carefully in my clothes. Elena found me in line for the gangway. "That's it? We're done?" "We're done." "Are you okay, after everything with your sister?" "I don't know. Ask me in a month." I looked at her. "Are you, after deciding to sell the house?" "Terrified, but good terrified. The kind that means you're moving instead of standing still." She smiled. "We should stay in touch." "We should." I meant it. "Will we?" "Probably not. But maybe that's okay too." I touched her arm. "Thank you. For the eggplant. For the honesty. For being—" I stopped. "For being present when present was what mattered." "Same to you." We hugged. Brief, genuine. Then the line moved and we were swept into different currents. Her toward customs, me toward baggage claim, both of us toward whatever came next. The flight home was uneventful. I read a book, slept a little, ate the terrible airplane food. Landed in the late afternoon. Sophie was waiting at arrivals with her father, my ex-husband Mark. She ran to me, hugged hard. "You're tan." It was sunny. Mark nodded hello. We'd reached that post-divorce place where we were civil in the way strangers are civil. Polite, careful, brief. "Good trip?" "Necessary," I said. He looked confused. Sophie laughed. On the drive home, Sophie asked questions. "What was your favorite port? Did you meet anyone?" "What did you eat?" I answered carefully. Gave her the part she could hold. Avoided mentioning the legacy cruise experience, the captain's table of removed women, the cooking class where I learned about bitter and sweet and balance. Home looked smaller than I remembered. The duplex with its leaky faucet, its narrow rooms, its walls that belonged to someone else. But it was mine. Or mine enough. Sophie helped me carry my bag inside, then hugged me again. "I'm glad you're back." "Me too." "Are you still mad at Aunt Mallory?" "I'm not mad. I stopped. Started again. I'm clear. That's different. She wants to talk to you, when you're ready." "I know." "Are you ready?" "No, maybe not ever. But that's okay too." Sophie looked at me like she was seeing someone new, or maybe seeing someone old who'd been gone for a while. "You seem different." "Do I?" "Yeah, in a good way." After she left, I unpacked, put the bowl on the kitchen counter, stood there looking at it for a long time. Then I went to the closet, pulled out the boxes I'd packed after Mom's funeral, the ones I hadn't opened, recipe box, photo albums, letters. I opened the recipe box, found the card for caponata, Mom's handwriting, that note at the bottom. Balance matters. Too much of anything ruins the whole thing. I read it twice. Then went to the kitchen, pulled out cutting board, knife, ingredients I happened to have. Eggplant from the farmer's market, tomatoes, onions. Not everything the recipe called for, but enough. Started cutting. Slow, careful. Present with each slice. Salted the eggplant. Let it sit. Drew out the bitter. Outside, evening light turned everything gold. Through the window, I could see my neighbor watering her flowers. A cat crossing the street. A teenager on a skateboard trying the same trick over and over. Life happening, regular, unremarkable, real. I cooked slowly, added tomatoes, onions, vinegar, sugar. The kitchen filled with that smell, sweet and sour and something underneath that was neither just itself. When it was done, I spooned some into the bowl I'd bought. The one from Amalfi, carried it to the table, sat down alone, took a bite. It wasn't as good as Mom's, but it was mine. Made by my hands in my kitchen for myself. The bowl sat on the table half full. I'd finish it later, or not. It wasn't about finishing. Outside, the light failed. Inside, I sat in the gathering dark, listening to my own breathing, tasting sweet and sour and bitter together. Everything balanced, finally. Nothing missing but the weight I'd been carrying, and that I left on a boat in the middle of the sea, dissolving like phosphorescence in the wake. Here now, present, mine,